Hello Star Wars fans, Mando Mitchie back, and we're going to be starting part 2 of the Cantina build. So if you didn't see the first episode where I kind of went through in theory my kind of ideas for this, go check that out. I don't want to rehash all that, but you know, the second level, and you'll kind of see some of the stuff in here at the top and my plans here. So this video is going to be dedicated toward some of the accessories that go with this. So I just put together the stage piece for the modal nodes, and let me move this piece out of the... So the stage piece, and you can see this is like drywall, sheetrock finishing material or mud or whatever you would call that. I want that stuccoed look. So yeah, so you see the modal nodes down there. So we're gonna have a stage for them. That's just in the beginning. So I cut it out, assembled it, beat it up a little bit. You know, you rub like rocks over it to kind of give it that uneven look, and then went over with that. And that stuff's still wet after I glued kind of the steps in that. So we'll make sure that is the same process as everything else in here. So that's drying. The stage is one thing that I want to talk about in this segment, but the other thing is the elevator. So you can see I've got a piece of, this is basically just PVC 3-inch plumbing pipe or tubing, whatever you would call it. It's plastic and PVC, and this is actually a drain stopper. But I was thinking about this and thinking, man, what would look right to finish this? So what we're going to have is this elevator. It's not going to be a function elevator, but I think it's looked pretty cool. You be the judge of this once we get done. But that's going to be the topper. There's going to be some wires coming out of this, all painted, distressed, very Tatooine-esque. I was just watching New Hope again, and in that revised part where they're driving into Mos Eisley, and all the broke down stuff, the rusty, just all the ships and just everything. So I want that look for this. So that's going to be part of that. But you can see I've got my elevator doors. I went ahead and used my compass and marked that out, and everything's fit. You can see there's holes drilled for the pegs that are in the cantina walls, so that's actually going to kind of fit in, and it's all going to work right. And then you can see the upper floor door is traced, and what I did is I went ahead and drilled some holes there because I'm going to go along with my Dremel bit and cut that circular area out. And then, so I'm going to go ahead and put both of those openings there. And then what I'm going to do is cut pieces like that, but bigger. And then from the inside, I'm going to glue those doors onto the inside of the pipe. So what it's going to look like is reminiscent of the Kenner Death Star, where the pivoting elevator door is inside this. So basically, in what it would work is it would rotate open and rotate back shut. So that's going to be the look. Both of them will be shut. And then what I also have in mind as well is as I get this together, there's going to be some lights beside the control panels that are going to flash, and that's going to be pretty cool. So some LEDs in that, and then this is going to be very distressed and weathered and look hopefully pretty darn cool. That's my in my vision, in my mind, that's what this looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and get those cut out, and I will try to video some of this parts. We're going to go through paint apps and just all this stuff and dedicate this part of this to the modal node stage, I think, and to the Cantina elevator. So let's keep working, and we'll bring you along here as we do this. Alrighty, Star Wars fans, Mando Mitchie back, and we're going to be doing some updates on the Star Wars HabsLab Cantina custom build that I'm doing here. And again, not movie accurate, not screen accurate, not even close. This is just something cool to fit my shelf space, and striking a balance of trying to fit as many of the screen accurate elements in and being creative. So let's start first with, I decided to make a bandstand for, I didn't want to use an alcove for these guys. So you can see I used the XPS foam and went in with the techniques of making it, it's pretty close to what the alcoves are, and so you can see that I did kind of a tiered stand, and got that extra instrument that came in the Eisley Cantina there. But we've got all 7 of the modal nodes in there, and they're ready to jam out. So that turned out pretty cool. I'm going to have actually, it's going to be down here in this corner is my thought right now. So I'm going to have those guys there in the setup, and kind of opening up area for the other things. And one thing that I did do is a little extra. This is a little greebly, cool looking piece that I thought, man, that when I saw it, I thought that looks like something on the stage with the modal nodes. So use your imagination. But if you're a roadie in a Star Wars Outer Rim Cantina band, man, that is something that you definitely need to have. So we got the bandstand with the modal nodes. So very, very cool. And I'm going to do a little more weathering on that. I've did some weathering in the washes, a little bit of shadowing with some pastels, but still have some more to do there. Probably the thing that I'm most excited about, and I showed a little bit of the basics here. This is the elevator. So how do you get from the first floor of the cantina to the second floor in Mando Mitchie's like make-believe world? You use the elevator. So what we have here is the elevator. And so yes, you can see we've got the custom door. And let me kind of come in close, and you guys can see all the weathering and the texturing that I did and the rust effects. We've got the controls, the raised paneling that really turned out good. 3D printed a Rancor, a piece of I guess wall art to put on there. So I really like the way that looks. That was something with the files from my sail barge that I printed that I had that file. So again, if you haven't seen that playlist, good time to kind of go back and check that out. None of these holes will be evident. That's just how this thing fits together. But you can see, yeah, we've got the door to the upstairs here. This tubing you won't be able to see that way it's sit. But yeah, so man, just rusted up this top area and added some greeblies, just weathering, and just it's one thing I love about Star Wars, and George Lucas and those guys said, this is a lived-in world. So yeah, so I really love this element. And so what I did to match the rest of as I looked and studied into, the Mos Eisley Cantina, they were, red and blue were the popular elements and as far as lighting that they went. So I went ahead and actually added this in here. And so this will be in my power infrastructure and all my dioramas in my office, you'll see. But yep, so we've got red and blue LED lights at the elevator, and see on that part too. So all that's wired, and that'll all be hidden as it's in place there. So all right, let me get the elevator in place, and I'll show you a little bit more about what that's going to look like. And I love the look of it and what the next steps are here. All right, so there is the elevator installed. So very, very cool. See the patrons, even Hammerhead in his height is, the elevator is good enough for Hammerhead to use. I just think it looks very Mos Eisley-esque and fitted. So I might do a little more weathering on that, but I'm pretty much I think I'm done with that part. And I just love the look of that. So let's talk about next steps. So as we continue on, what kind of gets us closer to display level and kind of getting that done. So what I think I'm going to do is my next few steps is I'm going to build and I will say this, if you're interested in the techniques of painting, this is white PVC, 3-inch PVC plumbing pipe. This is a drain stopper. That's a fuse. This is cabling. I mean, that's stuff, this greebly things that I got. These raised panels, this is cardboard. It's this material that goes on there. So if you go into Jason Jensen Trains, his YouTube channel, he has some tutorials that I think are the best out there in weathering techniques. If you want rust or just tarnished looks and just all kinds of cool stuff. That guy is such a great artist and does such good tutorials in showing that. I'm not going to try to do, that. I'm not really set up to film myself while I'm working. I don't have a good space or a setup, so I can show you guys what it looks like. I can do a few minor things, but really don't have that. So Jason Jensen Trains, he has a sci-fi layout that I love. And honestly, this elevator is inspired by work that I've seen him do. So, but we have that. But yeah, I will. Let me light those. Light. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of LEDs in this. So yeah, that's really cool. I love it. So anyhow, so next step. So what I'm going to be doing is doing a railing. And I think I mentioned that in a previous video, but so there's going to be a railing along this edge, that top mezzanine area there, railing over here. So I want to get the railing done so that we have that in place. And then what I think, that kind of sets my basic infrastructure as far as what I've got going on. So I've got the bandstand, that mezzanine top level, the build-ins on like my wall pieces, all that stuff's done, weathered, and ready to go. So that's going to be kind of that last structure. A couple other things that I'm going to be doing is some piping and some really cool things like in these areas right here. So I've got some 3D printed control panels, some piping. I'm going to be putting up like some more of this wall art type thing like that, and then along the back wall on my display shelf as well. So that's later on, but I'm gonna be doing some of that weathering on that. I'm gonna make the railing look very rusty and just most Eisley-esque, what we would see in the town, and get that part done. So then basically the structures, the extra pieces, all that will be complete. And then what I think I'm going to be down to is a whole nother segment. So this video is just basically going to be the pieces, parts, all that extra stuff. And then I'm going to do another video part to this. Probably part 3 is going to be wiring. So we're going to do fiber optics in the bar itself, fiber optic lighting. We're going to do lights inside each alcove and then in the entranceway. I've already got the George detectors. I think I showed those. Those are wired up already, but we'll tie that in. So all the alcoves will be wired up with all the red and blue LEDs. That'll be wired up, fiber optics in this, and then I'm going to run the wiring for all the Cantina tables. So that center light. So I want all that done. I'll show that there'll be some boxes built with LED lights shining through a translucent piece of plastic kind of coming through so you don't see the bulb. But then there'll be lights inside. This is the owner's office. So I want lights inside the owner's office. So we'll have that. So all the tables lit up, the lights on the back sides of the alcoves, the LED lights in the alcoves, and the entranceway and the owner's office, and then the bar. So I've got a lot of lighting work to do and figuring that out. So before we get to, all of that, let's get the base infrastructure done here. And then once I see that, then I can start to do, really what I need to do in my mind is start to do some figure placement so that I know, like in my alcoves, who's going to be in there. And then as I build the rest of those scenes on the bar floor and on that mezzanine top, who's going to be where, and so that I know what. All right, so we have finished kind of the pieces, parts of the infrastructure, and now I just want to kind of cover some of this. Let me just do a little bit of adjustment here. Cover some of what I've done and talk about what next steps are. So you can see I've got the railing up on the kind of that top tiered place on the mezzanine. So assembled, weathered, temporarily mounted. And then also what I did was finished up some of the kind of the greebly parts and pieces that I'm going to have kind of on these connecting walls on the, what I would say, the back side of the bar itself. So looking at that, what I did was built the railing out of these bamboo skewers. So these things are available pretty much anywhere. You know, you get things for grilling or cooking and whatnot, but it's just a very, very small piece of bamboo, piece of wood, really nice to work with. And so what I did was went together, and I'll show you, I do have these, there's holes drilled. I will attach these more permanently with some adhesive when we get done. But what I did was glued them together, used some epoxy and some super glue initially, and then painted them with what I used was a pewter colored rub and buff. I love that stuff. I use it for a lot of the work that I do. And then I went in with the technique, like what I had mentioned, that you could find on Jason Jensen trains, and especially in his sci-fi videos. It's so cool to see. You can take this and make it look like a rusty piece of safety railing in a Star Wars cantina. All of those different colors, brushed on, or not really brushed on, but sponged on in a certain order and in a certain way with a technique. And yeah, I just love the way this looks. So this section was the most challenging, just because the length of it, and as with the elevator, I had to do an angled piece. But as you look at the colors, and I don't know on camera how this will look necessarily, but in life, like in hand, it looks like this is metal that's been laying out in the elements and is just rusted up. So really, really cool. So I am just thrilled with the way this part turned out, and in my vision of what I wanted this to be and to look. You know, it's non-screen accurate, but for me to fit, like what I've said, to maximize my shelf space, it's just, I just think it looks so cool. So I can't wait to keep going. I get excited about every diorama I'm building, every project I'm working on, but and I guess my favorite one's always the one I'm working on at the time. But I have just so much enjoyed this and wanted to do the Cantina, and it was on my list, but not like real high on the list. I knew I was going to do it sometime, and then I was able to buy this base tier of the HasLab. I was like, okay, let's do this next. So anyway, so I got that in place. I want to talk a little bit too. So over here, you'll see these two connecting walls that's going to be here. One of them, you know, I've made, this is just XPF foam that I went through the process of making it hopefully match pretty close to the finish on the Cantina, the plastic there, and got that pretty close. And so with those walls, I want to finish those off. So a couple of things that I wanted to do with that, and I've got the one wall sitting here. You can see some things there. What I did was I wanted to have like just some piping that would be just in an industrial type, you know, setting, that would look just super cool. So I made this in the same technique that I had used to make that railing, and I hope this comes through on camera, just how awesome this looks. And it looks awesome because this is what it looked like when it started. This red piece of plastic. So these are like children's like erector type sets. I'll share the link that I got these on Amazon. I bought a kit of them with like 100 and I don't know how many, but a bunch of them. But I basically painted it gunmetal gray to start with, and then went into the process of going through all the paint apps and weathered that and added the rust. And I just think it looks so cool. I think it adds so much just in realism and just such a neat thing. So yeah, so I did that. So there's going to be multiple sections on that. Here's another section, like when you get those, they're different colors, and yeah, they got some cool things. And as I do my sci-fi build, like my sci-fi, we've got big plans for a big shelf display that I'm going to do sometime in the next year or so, get started with. This is going to be some of what I'm going to do, but you can see I did some sections. This is another section that I wanted it closer to the wall, so I trimmed that up. So you're going to see that's right outside the owner's office. So that's going to be like right in here on the wall. I think that'll be a really cool piece. And then the other one, what I'm thinking is when I get it mounted in my work office shelf, that I think this will probably go like just up on the wall somewhere like that. I think that looked really, really pretty cool. Just in that. So I've got those all done. So those are ready. Another thing that I wanted is on this wall, I wanted some more wall art, kind of like the Rancor. So with the files that I got for the sail barge that I printed, that creator, that modeler, gave some of the art and that in there for us to decorate the internal the galleys and Jabba's suite and that. So this Gamorrean guard kind of wall art sculpture is something that was in there. So I printed another one of those and 3D printed that. So that's going to be, and I painted that with the Rub and Buff pewter and kind of went in with the wash and did some cool highlights. So that's going to be on there. And then also I had these Greebleed just kind of wall control panels. So I went in, again, painted that with that pewter color and then did some color highlights in that. So I've got a couple of those. I think that's going to look good on the walls. And so the piping, the wall art, I'm gonna have some more. I've got some gargoyle type art, and you see we've got on some of this already, but I'm gonna have that some on the wall. And then my thought is when we get to that point, if you don't have this, the HasLab came with so many cool kind of posters. So I'm going to do some other cool wall art, and that as we get that up there. So I'm hoping to utilize that, and I might even make some custom posters too. I've got some ideas as far as that goes. But anyhow, so yeah, so that's kind of the wrap on this part 2. And so I would ask you, if you are interested in these type of things, you like diorama builds, customs, just modeling, creating, and that, would you consider subscribing to my channel so that you're notified of new content? So I just want to encourage all of you to be creative and collect and do cool stuff and try new things and just step out into this world and do some awesome stuff. And I will tell you, my first diorama didn't look as cool as this, and 5 dioramas from now it's going to be even cooler than this. So it's a process as you learn and gain expertise and that, and so you got to start somewhere. Don't be afraid to try. It's like anything else in life. So I just encourage you to do that. So next video, if you were watching part 2, as you go into part 3, it's going to be the lighting. So I love wiring, electronics, and that's one of my favorite things in the world to do. I'm a wire guy in advanced electrical and technical college, and would just help young people understand the concepts of electricity and how components work and all that. So I love it. I nerd out on that part. So this next segment is going to be lighting up the Cantina. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how that works. So we're going to be, as I mentioned just in this previous part, we're going to be lighting the alcoves, fiber optics in the bar, the internals of some of the rooms, the Cantina tables, and all that. So I'm excited. So stay tuned for part number 3. That's coming up soon. But again, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for being part of the collecting community and just contributing and being part of this passionate hobby that we all have. So God bless you guys. Thank you again. This is Mando Mitchie. We'll see you next time.